Thanks, Samson. I mean, I think that the multi-ethnic issues, the security issues that I feel perhaps the least competent to speak to. I'm going to focus on perhaps the legal and maybe a policy response aspects of the issue. It is easy to dismiss, the origins of it. Well, land was sold, and so they must be set off in a particular way. But the truth is that for many times, consistent national security reports on Ghana continue to flag our land conflicts as a potential source of a broader conflict that can happen and engulf this country. There have been several attempts in the past about land administration. There have been World Bank funded projects about how we bring sanity to how we administer land ownership, clarity around this. And it's a bit strange that even for this long, questions around ownership continue to remain very murky. Establishing one's ownership of land in this country is a very challenging process. So this is something that we must view in the same backdrop. In fact, I have been very involved in the past few months as well, particularly around the Galamsey areas, where these thorny issues of chiefs selling land, chiefs giving land to artisanal miners and things like that is also generating its own conflict in some regard that is potentially going to explode. So I think that's something that we need to, again, sanitize in order to avoid these instances. The second issue is about the humanitarian crisis in a respect. And in fact, in the beginning, and for many of the accounts that have been said, it seems that the government's own responses to the humanitarian crisis has not been up to par in terms of how we deal with this. Even in terms of the lateness of our coordination with our colleagues on the other side of the border in Côte d'Ivoire, in terms of how we respond to the folks that are coming in and how we deal with them, it's a big concern. But this is not a situation that you want to perpetuate. This is not turning a refugee crisis point that we want to create, particularly considering that, again, there are food security issues. So many of the communities are in many respects food baskets for the regions and beyond, that if these people have left their farms unattended, it cannot continue for a long time.
Right.
So that's something that they have to be able to bring sanity even before, and even as we think about the humanitarian aspects of people need to get back to their homes and getting back to their lives. The next point I'm a bit interested in as well is in terms of reportage and coverage of this. So I don't know whether it is our fascination with by-elections in most respects, that this was happening at the same time as the Akwatia conversations. And if you look at the extent of coverage Akwatia gets, it's completely disproportionate to what the loss of lives at the scale in which they were happening in Gbenyiri and the surrounding areas. And as a people that made such a meal out of the people that died in Techiman, I don't know whether the fact that it was, again, election connected, that we have a particular penchant for dramatizing election-related issues. But this is a huge crisis. Whether we are believing the numbers that is 31 or even 200 as some are speculating, even the number of people who died apparently on the boat, on the white voter that drowned, that we have only been able to find 6 survivors. The number of people that actually died, we have not been able to establish that to be able to add that competently to numbers. That is a big problem. So for me, I am also concerned about how we partition our humanity and empathy towards reportage of issues generally. And I've noticed, I mean, again, it's perhaps a long historical thing in terms of how we cover the northern part of the country, the way in which we create sympathy and empathy around issues that affect certain areas. It goes all the way down to even the Nanumba and Kukumba issues in which we're reporting it, in which we, even today, the persons who are in policy space make fun of it. Oh, these people were fighting over Guinea fowl or things like that. There's not a lot of humanity in which we report this. There's a disproportionate, of course, media resources in the south as compared to the north, and the ways in which we are competent to discuss this. So I do hope that that's something that we discuss.
Right.
And then finally, the deployment of security forces again, and to look at the number of people that were down in Akwatia for the by-election, and also our inability to bring this immediately and a sense of overwhelming security presence that dissuades people from getting into this issue. Right. Now, I am not in any doubt that overwhelming security presence alone does not solve a conflict. If a dead Boku would not be in the situation in which it is. But we already have a situation which is brewing in the Upper East. We don't want to add the Upper West again to the range of issues. So perhaps those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you.